Hello, everyone. Great to have you here. So we will start slowly. I will just let you know how the webinar will work to give you the notion. So this is our deliverability webinar. We would like to introduce you to the mystery word of how it happens that my email get or cannot deliver to the main inbox. Today with here is Mike.
Hey, how are you?
Mike is our support specialist. He's our real hero. So he helps our customers to manage deliverability. If you are already using Woodpecker, there is very high possibility that you talk with Mike already. Just to let you know, this is a webinar composed out of two parts. The first part is this presentation, so we will chat with each other about how deliverability works. And then afterwards, we'll have a Q&A section. Feel free to use it during the whole webinar. If you have any questions, case studies, you would like to discuss something, that's definitely a good place for you. We will try to answer some of the questions live, but of course, due to time constraints, we won't be able to answer all. Then no worries, we'll email you with the full transcript and answers, potential other materials after the webinar. So I think we can start.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So to have the general notion of deliverability, we decided to talk about layers. And it may sound mystery, but Mike will definitely introduce you to the world of how and why we decided to have. There are, as we can see, three main layers. So can you just say briefly what each of those layers mean?
Sure. The deliverability is kind of phenomenon in the IT world where it can't be measured really by any single tool. That's why we are dividing the whole deliverability into three sections, which are going to be technical settings, copy quality, and campaign settings. Each of them will contain a couple of more terms, which we're going to talk about it a little bit after.
Okay, so it seems like an organizational matter to have those layers. We will see how it proceeds. Okay, so the first is technical settings, and I can see that there are some tech things like SPF and DKIM, and then some other elements which are important to have. So can we start from the beginning?
Sure. The most important part of the technical settings is going to be the SPF and DKIM authentication records. Also, what's in that layer going to be the domain age, the process of warming up the domain and the email that we're going to use for sending emails, and also the limits of the email providers.
Okay, so starting with SPF and DKIM, I get that those are authentication records, but if I starting sending cold emails, from where I can know, what type of those things I need or how it works?
Just because of the nature of the records, it's probably the best to look for the help of other people from the IT departments, or maybe the help post of the email provider, or you can even send the mail tester. There is a pretty good software that we're using on our on every day, and that's where you can get the SPF from, which stands for simple
Sender Policy Framework.
Sender Policy Framework. Thank you very much.
I know those abbreviations are horrible.
They are a little bit. We're not using them every day. So the SPF is pretty easy to obtain. That's what I said. Like you can send that mail tester. You can ask the guys from IT. You can check it online at the help post of your web email provider. It's a little bit harder with the DKIM, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. It's a little bit harder to obtain, as this is a unique code for every single domain and can be generated directly from the DNS panel. When we are talking about the technical settings, we have to talk about warming up and the domain age, which are kind of, they are interlinked, they are connected with each other. So first thing, domain age.
So maybe we'll go to this part. Let's maybe wrap up with SPF and DKIM and show how it looks like. Because for me, that was an absolute mystery at the very beginning. I was looking for something, but didn't know how it looks like. So this is first SPF you showed me, I remember. And you said that this is for Google.
Yep.
It seems more or less logical. So it's like, if you have Google, you always use this, or?
In most of the cases, yes,
Okay.
just because SPF shows everything that takes part in sending your email. So if you only have your basic G Suite or Gmail account, all you have to do is to put that record that you can see on your screen right now, and it's going to work. And that's it. That's everything that you need to have in your SPF for Gmail or G Suite.
So I just
account.
copy this from, for example, help of my email
Absolutely.
provider and paste in my DNS, and that's all.
Yes.
Okay. So this is one, so more or less understandable. And we have also SPFs like more complex. So for example, this one, what does it actually mean? You know, there is longer strings. So.
Just by looking at it, it means that your Gmail account or G Suite account uses the external SMTP for sending your emails. In this case, I can presume that the customer is using SendGrid or Mailgun for sending emails, or one and the other one just by you looking at the...
So each thing which takes part in the sending process should be there?
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Okay, I get the point. So the last one is this one, and as the previous one were more or less something I can imagine, this is an absolute abstract. So what does it mean?
This record is unique for every single domain, and it's used, like I said, for identifying the domain, and the whole code will be generated randomly and in a unique way for every single domain within your DNS panel.
So again, I'm searching for probably like a button, generate DKIM, click it, copy paste, DNS panel,
and that's it.
And that's it.
There's only one thing that you need to know when you're updating the SPF and DKIM is that it will take up to 72 hours to broadcast the whole information across other DNSs. We have to remember about that.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. So you already slightly started about domain age. So it means that if I just purchase a domain, I need to wait, or domain need to be old enough to send?
Depends from the age of the domain, because you can actually buy used domain which was in use for a little while, and the little while that we considered as safe to use for sending is 6 months. So if your domain is younger than 6 months, it will have to be warmed up, which brings us to another point, which is warming up the domain and email address as well. So warming up. What warming up means? Warming up means that you just have to, when we are talking about the domain, we need to earn the reputation of the domain. So we will have to show our regular use. We will have to show our patterns, the way that we are sending the emails, the way we are actually using our domain, just to give the vague idea what we're gonna do with our domain. And this is how it works. Actually, we just need to show how we're gonna be using that in the future.
Okay, so it's like I'm starting with setting the SPF and DKIM. Then I'm thinking if I just purchased the domain or it was used, and then I need to remember about warm up. So the last one is about limits of email providers, and I believe that's crucial for those who are just about to purchase, because that's from a business perspective important.
Exactly. Yeah.
Limits of email providers are given, so I should probably search somewhere to check.
For example, if you're buying a domain from Google, if you're just setting up the first email in Google, all you have to do is just to search for their help. Just typing limit of the email provider, and that will give you the information, how many emails per day, and what's more important for the deliverability, how many emails per hour you'll be able to send in those initial days or months of your new email account. Okay,
in case you would like to have a quick overview and don't search for different email providers, we have a blog post about limits of different hosts, so feel free to browse it on our blog. That's definitely a good source. Okay, so just a quick sum up. We start with domain age, warm up, and limits of email providers as less technical. So it's just something what we do. And then with SPF and DKIM, we go into more details. So this is a very simple one for Google. I can find it on the webpage of email provider. Then this is more complex. This is, for example, when I have Google and external SMTP. Important side note, you don't have to put Woodpecker in your SPF. And this is DKIM, which no one knows what precisely mean, but it's necessary to generate and be added in your DNS. Okay, great. So the thing which is very interesting for me is copy quality, because it really means that even if I'm not sending spam, so I'm sending, you know, my copy written by me and all is fine, in my opinion, is there still something what may make my copy spammy in the eyes of servers which receives the message?
Yes, unfortunately, the words that you're using are the universal one, and not only you are using those words, people are using them for different purposes. So there is no ultimate list of the words that will make your message look spammy, but there are a couple of lists that will help you a little bit in just choosing the right words for your email, for your cold email campaign. And so those lists are changing from time to time, just because the interest of people, the interest of others that they're sending spam are changing as well. Yeah, we had a really nice post on our blog just a couple of weeks ago saying about the new trends in the spam words. So, for example, we just noticed that right now one of the most trendy industry that will be targeted by spammers is, for example, finance, real estate, or taxes, for example. So it's so words like tax, income, revenue, money, those gonna be used right now. Those are gonna be considered as spammy at this moment. Even simple sign as percentage, as dollar sign, can be also considered as a spam word.
So probably if I'm about to write my copy using sentence like, I don't know, 30% discount, save on your month revenue, it's not the best idea.
It's a great idea, but it will take us a lot of work to make it deliver to the main inbox. Yes.
Okay, that's really unfortunate. So here's the thing about personalization, because I get how it may be good from a business perspective, but why it matters when it comes to deliverability?
First thing that comes in my mind is the subject line, which should be personalized as well. Why is that? Why it's so important? Just to make your subject line a little bit different from the others that will be sent out from your campaign, just to make sure that your message will be interesting for your recipient. That's why the personalization is so important. The other thing is, when you're adding more snippets, which our software allows to do, you're randomizing the whole copy of the email, making it a little bit more scrambled. I mean, the text, and making it a little bit more unique.
Okay, so the important thing which I should have in mind is uniqueness of my email.
Yes.
The more different things, the better it probably is.
Yes.
Okay. So if I keep it, so I try not to use spam words, and I more or less try to use personalization. But then it's important for me to track activity of prospects. So I use tracking links, but I've heard many opinions that using tracking links is not the best idea from the perspective of getting to the main inbox. Is there anything I can do about it, or it's just a bad idea and I should drop it?
It's not actually a bad idea. It's something that our customers are actually looking for from our software. So there are a couple of ways of making those tracking links less vulnerable. Thank you. Sorry about that.
So is there like tactic?
Yeah, there's a tactic. There is a way of doing that. So first thing is hiding the link behind the text, which will make it a little bit less suspicious. And then the other thing that our software allowed to do is just creating your own tracking domains, which will point into the domain of your own, that you're using every day.
So it's, instead of using generic one,
yeah,
I can have
the
mine.
generic one will be
Okay.
suspicious in the eyes of, if I may say so, in the eyes of the anti-spam filters.
Okay.
Just if you're using the same domain that you're using for sending, everything is fine. Everything just looks normal.
Okay, I get the point. So the last question about copy quality is that, you know, there is always this big discussion, what's the difference between cold emails and newsletters and so on. But sometimes it's necessary to have at least some pictures included in the copy. So is it like I should not do it at all? Or maybe I can add something like, you know, logo and a signature or any HTML to bold something or anything like this?
The main rule is the less the better.
Okay.
So if you have to have some pictures, some HTML code in your email, just try to keep it to minimum.
Okay.
Try to ask someone experienced in HTML to prepare the code for you, just to
Not
make it look
messy.
Yeah, neat and tidy. That's it. If your signature will require to have logo of your company, yes, you absolutely you're allowed to do so, but try to keep it to minimum, like I said before.
So as you said, less the better.
Yeah, it's just because of there are other mails that will have loads of pictures, like newsletters, like mentioned before, and those newsletters will get straight to the promotions folder. They'll get straight to the newsletter folder, which you might have in your mailbox, and that's not your goal when you're sending a cold email. You would like to reach out to your prospects straight to the main inbox.
Okay, so probably when I think about my tactic, I should imagine what kind of emails I get from, I don't know, my coworkers or friends, like, you know, plain text, nothing fancy, and something like this would work. Okay, that's definitely a challenge sometimes, because I can imagine that, you know, there's a temptation to do it differently, but it's doable. So just a quick sum up from it to be sure that I understood correctly. There are some spam words which I should avoid. As you gave an example, there's %, revenue, money, and things like this.
Yes.
There are also those non-obvious, so I need to, you know, browse and do a small research before I start. That's the safest idea, probably.
Yeah, just by contacting us and asking for such a list, we're able to provide it.
Okay, great. Then I should use some personalization, and if I decide to include tracking links, I should take care of my own tracking domain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then with pictures and HTML, the rule is not to overreact. So some is fine. The newsletter and cold email is not necessarily. Okay. So the last question is about the layer of campaign settings. Yeah. So if I understand correctly, this is something from Woodpecker itself.
Yeah, this is something that Woodpecker will allow you to do so. That's one of our features. And so when we are talking about the campaign settings, we're talking about sending speed, randomized time, and the number of the campaigns that they're running at the same time.
Okay, so with sending speed and randomized time, because this sounds like interrelated, how it works, because sending speed is like simply how fast I send, and this is something what matters. And then probably the question about the delivery window, so small, medium, cut it into pieces, not in one row, and randomized time, like how do I get the time in randomized form?
Yeah, let me explain that. So sending speed gonna be the number, the sheer volume of emails that we're gonna send each day. And because Woodpecker as an app is simulating, is just pretending to be a human being writing emails to our prospects. What we are advising is just to keep the default settings that you may find in your Woodpecker account. So we are talking about the sending, we are talking about the randomized time between 60 and 120 seconds, just because that's how fast the normal human being is writing.
So this is the recommended one, and even if I can lower it, it's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea. There is lowest setting in Woodpecker is from 10 to 20 seconds, but to be honest, it's not the best idea to use that setting. there is a danger,
Okay.
just because if you're gonna send like a half-page long email
with this
with this delay, like 10 seconds apart, that's gonna be too fast.
Okay. So and then with multiple campaigns, so I should, you know, design somehow not to overlap between campaigns, or what's the best practice in here?
It's just, if you're, for example, if you have two campaigns running at the same time, it's best to pick the separate time windows within your normal sending window. Like,
so I don't send for 1 hour or something.
Definitely.
But I choose something
Let's
bigger.
say you're sending only within the office hour, from 8 to 5. And if you would like to fit two campaigns within that window, I would recommend to send one from 8 to 12, and then from 12 to 4.
So one after another.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just because that's the way you used to send your emails each day. You're coming to the office, you're starting sending your emails, and then you're going home. So no emails are going out from your email.
Like unusual.
Exactly.
Time.
So we are not. So we want to avoid, you as a customer, you should avoid the peaks. What we call. So for example, there is like loads of emails send it out within 1 or 2 hours, and there is nothing for the rest of the day, and that will be suspicious straight away.
Okay, I get the point. So before we go to some case studies in our sum up, just a quick sum up of this slide. So with sending speed, I should take care not to send it faster than default setting. Of course, I may try, and maybe that will work for your industry or your case, but you need to be particularly careful about the fact that, you know, it's a very, very fast, it's not human-like sending anymore, almost. Then the sending window should not be like 1 hour or 2 hours. We are choosing bigger amount of time to be safe, to still imitate human-like sending. If I'm overlapping between campaigns, I'm aware that, you know, then that may actually slow down the sending speed, and it may have its own effects on it. Yeah, and as I understood, Woodpecker randomizes on its own, so I don't have to do anything in this regard. Okay.
If you're just putting those two values in a settings, like 60 seconds and 120 seconds, each time the email is going to be sent, Woodpecker will pick the number, will pick the interval for you.
So it's not to keep it even. Okay, so you know, that's pretty complex topic. There is a lot of things going on, and I can imagine that if I'm just starting, you know, the Woodpecker is my first tool, and I'm about to analyze the effects of my campaign. And I, for example, can see that in my previous campaign, there was like 60% open rate, and I don't know, 30% open rate, and it drops.
Yeah.
How I start even to go through this whole process. So what do you recommend for just, you know, user who don't know what happened?
First step, I would recommend to go to your inbox in Woodpecker and go to the folder that is called bounced. You will find there bounced emails, which will indicate what might be the reason of such a behavior that that people are not opening your emails anymore. So what's usually there is the information from the DNS of your recipient. So the information is generated automatically, and it will just show you why the email was not delivered to your prospect. Usually it depends, yeah, but usually that's a spam content that the message was rejected, that it was bounced.
Okay, so inbox is a good place to search for some answers. Also, if I send the same content, is there like necessity to refresh it, to change anything on a daily basis, or how often?
That's something that we are repeating every day. Like, if you have your copy, if you have the copy of the email and you're happy with it, and it's working, that's great. But once you will notice that drop in the open rate, that means that there's something wrong going on. And it's not really elegant way of describing it, but what I'm saying is the copy got used. It's so, for example, the whole email is being recorded and compared by different spam filters, by different mechanisms, and they learned how to recognize that this is not a genuine email. That's why it's so important to change the copy of the email from campaign to campaign, just by switching the sequence, the rephrasing the sentences. Anything like this will work.
Okay, so if I don't know what happened and I see the drop of my open rate, first what I can do is go to the inbox, check bounces, what's included in this information you've mentioned, so if there is a spam record or any DNS error, anything. Then I can start thinking like, okay, so maybe I'm sending this copy for too long. So that's a thing to rephrase. And then if I'm in a dead point, I truly believe that you can always contact Mike and he would be the right person to answer your questions. Thank you very much for the whole explanation.
Welcome.
That was really great. That was a pleasure to talk with you. And now we have some time for your questions. So we'll move to our Q&A section. And we already have the first question. So let us answer this one. Okay, so we'll leave you with the presentation to keep it clear and nice for you. The first question is, how do I find out my domain age? How to warm up the domain? Okay, so
the first part, the domain age, is pretty easy, as we're using, there are a couple of websites that will give you such information. For example, I'm using every day the website called who.is, and all you have to do is just to type your domain address there, and you will get the basic information about the whole domain, like the domain age, when it was created and when it's going to expire.
Okay, and about how to warm it up?
How to warm it up? That's actually what I was talking about all the time. So just making teaching the filters, the mechanisms that they're all around us, how we are sending the emails. So to warm up, you have to send the emails, handful of emails each day to your friends at work, to your business partners. And what we are advising is just to send 5 to 10 emails per day and ask for the reply. That might be just a normal emails saying, hey, how are you? But that might be also a normal business email to your business partners that you're in good relationship, and you know that they'll reply to it.
Okay.
Just because you have to show the genuine use of your email.
Okay, I get the point. So the next question is, I want to use 2 email accounts on the same domain. Do I need to warm up both?
Yes, you have to warm up both if they were not warmed up before. So if you have 2 brand new emails, you have to warm them both.
Okay, so it's like, even if I have warmed up domain, it does not mean that I don't have to warm up email addresses. I need to warm up both domain and all email addresses.
Yeah.
Okay, get the point. Is there a tool to scan my email for spam words?
Unfortunately, no, there is no such a tool. We are using a couple of lists of spam words, and like I mentioned before, they're changing all the time because the trends are changing. So you have to look for a different list on the internet.
Definitely, you may find some tools online which recommend, that they are able to do so. Nevertheless, internally, we believe more in our manual checks, but when you start to think about it, that all what is connected with promotion, sale, discount, money, you may try to figure it out. And also, if you are looking for more detailed lists, feel free to contact us. We will send it to you. Okay, the next question is, can you provide links to the blog posts? Yeah, sure. We will send you via email all links, which we mentioned today. So the blog post about finance, industry, and sending cold emails, the limits of hosts, and so on and so forth. So you'll get it, no worries. Do I need to add Woodpecker to my SPF?
No, you don't have to, because as I mentioned, in SPF, you have to have all the records, all the domains that will take part in sending of your email. Woodpecker does not take part in sending emails. It just initiates the whole sequence, and it will take care of the randomization of the personalization of your email.
The only thing which is sent from Woodpecker is just a ping to sending server, which is called SMTP, to send the message. That's why you don't have to have it. Can a domain be too old?
No, there's no such a thing as too old domain. We were coming across of the domain during our work. We were coming across of the domains that were as old as the internet. So it was about 1996, 1995. So some records were even unavailable for those domains because there is no historical data for some of the data gathered by, in this case, WHOIS.
The only case which may be, important here is that if you have a domain with very, very long reputation and you were not the initial registrator of the domain, you may have some issues to find out how it was used. So if there was not the case that someone sent a spam for the last 2 years from the domain and you don't know, because then you don't know that you have to fix something. Okay, the next question is, you mentioned SPF and DKIM. What about DMARC?
DMARC is not right now. I would like to emphasize on that it's not required right now. So you don't really have to worry about it because it's kind of tough to set it up.
It's also not a must-have to send cold emails.
Exactly.
So it's if you wish to have set it up and you know how to do it, that's fine. It will not harm anything. But it's better to stay with SPF and DKIM because it's something what you must have. DMARC is a matter of choice. Okay, do we have next question? Yes, we have. What can I do if my domain has a bad reputation?
If your domain has a bad reputation and if you're using Woodpecker at this moment, it's recommended to stop your campaigns, not to send any more emails from it, and you have to start a recovery process. The recovery process is very similar to it's actually the same as the warming up process. So again, we're going back to basics. We are starting to send a handful of emails each day. We're asking for the replies. We are just doing everything as normal person would do. What's the difference there? You have to ask also your recipients to check the spam box. Just in case your reputation was so bad, you have to show you have to show that your message was genuine, and your recipient, your prospects will have to mark it that this is not a spam message in his mailbox. The other difference from sending from recovering your domain and from warming up is just it takes a little bit longer because you're starting from poor reputation instead of the neutral one, which is for the new domains. Just takes a little bit longer.
Okay, and the next question is, should I use follow-ups? From the perspective of deliverability, each message is actually analyzed in a separate way, but from a perspective of business, we know from our own research and from our own experience that cold email campaigns work best when there's at least 2 or 3 follow-ups. So if you ask about deliverability, follow-ups or not follow-ups, those are just separate messages. If you ask about business perspective, definitely you have to have follow-ups. Okay, so I believe that's all for today. Thank you for your question and for the participation. I will just repeat to ensure you how the process works right now. So we'll email you with the answer to all of those questions in case you want to come back and repeat something. We'll also email you the links which we mentioned in case you would like to check out our blog. Anyways, it's a good source of knowledge, so if you have any doubts about cold emails, good practices, feel free to check it. And in case you have any questions about deliverability, Woodpecker, or questions like should you use follow-ups, feel free to contact our support. We'll be more than glad to help you. Thank you very much, Mike, once again.
Thank you very much, Gosia.
Thanks for your participation.
Thank you.